White kids call me Jae, black kids call me Jae. That's just my name changes everywhere I go. And you would think, oh, do Korean kids call you Jaewon then? Like, no. Because when I was in high school, I was a little bit older than everybody in my grade, so I didn't want them to call me Jaewon because like 싸가지 없게 형이라고 해야지. Right? So I didn't let them do that, so I just by Jae.
Welcome to the Take 1.5 podcast. This is your host, Min Lee.
My name is Jae, or Jaewon, right? I've been having a bit of a thing about what name do I want to go with. So I'm writing Jae Kwon right now. I am 33 years old. I am a senior in undergrad at Columbia University. I am studying creative writing nonfiction, which just means I like to talk about myself and write about myself. So I'm talking about myself here. And I was really drawn to this podcast because of the 1.5, because as you can see in my name, I've been very in that in-between space lately. But I was particularly interested in talking about this podcast itself and the community itself of the in-betweenness and 1.5 generation. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
You know, remember like when you're a kid and then like the white kids are like, oh, can you say something in Korean right now? And you just kind of freeze. Like, what do you mean something? Black people like me because I wasn't white. White people like me because I wasn't black. That was it. That Dale Shelton Dees Jr., if you're watching this, Dale, I'm sorry, bro. I'm gonna blast your shit because you're racist. I was at his house, sleepover, and Dale says, Jay, can I ask you a question? And so he asked me, what do you think about black people? And I say nothing because, one, I am 10 years old. I was thinking about violent, cool action movies with naked ladies who are hot. I wasn't thinking of anything. I kind of already feel, even at 10 years old, where he's coming from.
Right.
And I can feel like I could potentially be part of the group that he's hostile towards. I can feel that. Right? I can't articulate it like him now.
Right.
But then the pause hangs there. The pause hangs there. And because I was silent, he says, yeah, I don't like them either. And I never said anything about it to him ever. That was my first and honestly only experience of being a coward in front of racism. People weren't racist towards me, so it was okay, was my like childhood vibe, right? But then I think back on it and it wasn't. But what could I have done as a 10-year-old? I don't know. Did you know in Alabama they send black children cotton picking as a field trip?
What do you mean? Like,
In 2001 when I was there.
what?
Yes. In 4th or 5th grade, because that's when I was there, right? We go to a field trip. I'm pretty excited to go on the field trip because I know nothing about American history and context. Okay? So 엄마 우리 필드 트립 간대. Okay, 사인해줬어, right? And we paid like $25 or something like that. We go to a plantation and we look around the building and how it was and how wealthy the owners were, right? Up to there, I think good educational value. Probably. And note that in Alabama, the class size was around 30 to 40% black. Everybody else white. One Asian kid, me. Another Asian kid, my brother, he's in the other grade, right? Under the Alabama sun, we go out into the fields and we pick the cotton. And they teach us the labor songs and we sing songs while picking the cotton. Bunch of 10-year-olds, right? Like all these white kids, all these black kids, and one Asian kid. We all sing I don't even know what the song was, right? So, whatever it was. We picked the cotton. The reason I bring that up is I had forgotten about that.
Yeah.
Until I saw that guy on YouTube years later.
Yeah.
He's talking about it, and he's black. So he was talking about his story had a 사이다 ending, as Koreans like to say. Mom heard about it afterward, came to the school, and just destroyed everybody at the school so to make sure that wouldn't ever happen again. But just like in Alabama, I was silent when I was with Dale Shelton Dees Jr., right? And in this situation, nobody spoke up either. Nobody. Due to the fact that it was so normalized, I had forgotten about it until I saw that video on YouTube. And I think he's like a lawyer now, so he doesn't what connected to it.
We should really tag him.
I actually had an event literally yesterday for International Mother Language Day at Columbia Teachers College. And I went to an event for that day last year for a different organization as well. And last year I was so happy to be part of it because it was from the Bangladesh people's struggle because Bengali was illegalized and they had to fight for the right to keep their language. And I never knew about it. My grandma, when she was in school, like she wasn't allowed to speak Korean because it was Japanese occupation.
Right.
But that made me realize it's a shared experience by colonized peoples and oppressed peoples. And I was thinking about what is my mother tongue, and I was like, oh no, I think it is American, as in I'm not defined by national divides in language per se. I speak American as in I just speak however I want. If I'm talking to one of my girlfriends, right, and then I'm getting kind of like exasperated with her. Like we talked about this. He's so like 눈치 없어, 재수 없어. He's like 쓰레기. Like what is wrong with you, right? I'm done. So I'll talk like that, right? Or if I'm helping a Korean kid with his essay, right? If he's like from Korea, I may be like, 그러니까 이 부분에서는, and then I'll be like, professor가 얘기한 것처럼 articulation 해야 되고, right? 여기서는 example provide를 해야 되고, 그러면 이렇게 점수를 더 잘 받을 거야. discussion post 써. Like I just mix those, right? It's not all that different if I go to a bodega, right? And like the bodega, the guy behind the counter is he's Arab, right? And everybody's like, yo, Ak. They call him Ak, right? And then there's like even the TikTok famous where he's like, oh, he makes sandwiches the Aki way. I work at a Pocha. So while I'm in the Pocha, the 주방장 or the chef, the 이모님, right? Like all of those things. She's Korean, obviously, right? But then a lot of the helpers, they're from Venezuela or Dominican Republic. So we say things like basura, 버려, quickly, rápido, right? Like thing that I've been kind of like thinking more about. Especially I think because the description for the podcast was like 영어도 잘하고 한국말도 잘하는데 둘 다 못하는, right? So like that in between space. It also made me feel a little bit more grounded in that thinking of my language as I speak American as more. Because sometimes you feel so isolated as like the 1.5 generation and Korean generation as well. Even if the United States administration has been lying to me since I was age 16 in terms of I will be able to get a path to legal citizenship, what I am is still American in spirit. I speak American.
Yes. So I have a question. When we mix up Korean and English, we switch code back and forth like very fluently, right? My friends and I call it Konglish, but you're saying that's American.
Yes, for two reasons.
Sure.
Number one is I don't just use Korean, right? I use American English. I use New Jersey English in particular, and then or New York English a little bit here and there, right? Which also has a lot of Spanish influences, right? And I use Spanish sometimes as I go. It's from all the intersections that I've been in. And the second thing is like 영어랑 한국어가 섞여서 나오는 단어들을 좀 더 콩글리시로 예를 들어서 뭐 핸드폰. 그러니까 영어로는 that's cell phone. And then like 콩글리시는 그리고 내가 한국말 할 때는 it kind of rolls off the tongue. 괜찮아요. 콩글리시 발음은. I guess that's the third thing. 발음 자체가 I don't like the sound of Konglish because like 콩글리시는 Korean English 내가 연관이 잘 되는데 Konglish, like Kong doesn't recall Korean to me either linguistically.
I see.
Because it's like a Korean and a Kong.
Yeah.
Oh, I just figured it out. That's the other reason I don't like it. My actual language that I would label is American.
American.
Yeah.
Got it. Oh. Interesting perspective. I like it.
The in-betweenness of this language or that not being the mother tongue, and they felt like they never knew what to label it. Which was why I wanted the label, because labels are very important in terms of we get rid of them or we use them either way.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, so I speak American. I've been in that in-between space because about 10 years I've been going to a Korean church. But I've also been drinking in Pal Park. But Pal Park was, according to Wikipedia anyway, the most densely populated Korean place outside of Korea. So I've been just in that space of mini Korea within the US, but we're not Koreans, we're not Americans either, like that. In church, right, and in Pocha, it's the same people. It's just, do you see them on Sunday? Or do you see them on Friday? You know what I mean, right?
Right.
And I was both of those. I was out there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Out there as in Pocha Friday, Saturday, and then, on church on Sunday, right? And then even with the same people, and we're always in like a betweenness of Korean and English and all of that. Well, if I'm out drinking, it's a little bit more like a mixture of both. But even within that, like let's say like if we 그 콩글리시 레이블을 쓴다면은 those areas they might be Konglish. 근데 여기서도 the languages changes according to where you are. 금요일이랑 토요일에 봤을 때는 이 사람이 형님이야. 형님 오셨어요. 예? right? 근데 일요일에 가면 집사님이잖아, right? 여기서는 사모님이야, 여기서는 누나야, 여기서는 전도사님. 전도사님이면은 그냥 못 본 척이 아니고 because we're all like from that same like vibe of the in-between space and of like of having to change how you talk wherever you go and things like that. Yeah, Jersey's a wonderful place because there's Fort Lee, there's Powell Park, there's Leonia, there's Richmond. There's so many towns with clusters of Koreans, right? That you can get support, you can get your hanarum, you can get your groceries and all of that, right? But if you're not from those areas, there is such a segregation you feel. 그러니까 여기 있는 사람들은 한국 사회에서 속해서 잘 살아가고 있는데 if I live elsewhere, right? I lived in a town called Glen Rock, right? And I'm saying it was a bad town. There was just like no Korean population at the time there, right? Or other parts of Bergen County or wherever it is. And you're there, it could just be, you're the only Korean kid there.
Yeah.
Right. In that case, you feel a degree of isolation that is twofold. Because you're not only are you the only Korean kid there, but you also feel isolated from the lucky Koreans who get to be in the Korean society. Because those kids get to be in Korea. So I'm isolated in my own town, and I'm also isolated from the Koreans over there. This is kind of like a PSA to the Korean American woman, right? Korean men are not obsessed with violence because they're 유치해, they're 철없어, they didn't grow up. There is a deeper reason for that. I'm going to tell you right now.
Okay.
Which is, there is this hyung I know. So he's a hyung of a hyung. So he's like up here, like very respect, right? And he was in a very, very white town. And he moved here in high school. He faced a lot of racism there, right? Like the typical, right? Like calling him a chink, go back to your country, right? You probably have a small dick, like all of those things, and etc., right? 혼자서 한국인이고 혼자서 동양인인데 거기서 약하게 나가면은 4년 내내 like his life was gonna be hell. Like he was just gonna be their bitch in high school. Even if you're not in a life of crime, if you grow up in the United States and you're racially and culturally and socially isolated, you might have to be faced with violence because you are having violence perpetuated on you every day. And there was this guy on the wrestling team, and my hyung, he just beat the shit out of him. But the problem is he's the only one on his side, the hyung, right? So the guy on the wrestling team means he has teammates. He brings all the teammates, and they all gather together in the bathroom. I don't know why everybody fights in the bathroom. That I don't know. They're in the bathroom. So, and this is where the language thing comes in too, with the Korean and English. He wanted to say, 나 건드리면은 너 시도새도 모르게 죽여버린다. 근데 이게 영어로는 어떻게 나오면은 I kill you, nobody know. 이렇게 그냥 네 단어로 끝나버리는 거예요. 근데 미국 애들은 그런 랭귀지를 처음 들어보니 they were just like, oh, this Asian kid is crazy. He might actually murder us. 그래가지고 10몇 명 대 그 싸움을 하지도 않고 그냥 이겨버린 거예요. 그래가지고 그 형 거기서 전설이 돼가지고 그리고 또 한국 애들이 여기서 무시를 받고 있다 하면 또 거기 가서 애들이랑 싸우는 거죠. This is something that happened in like the 90s or early 2000s. 나는 그거를 듣고 와 내가 들었던 뭐 한국에 있는 영화들은 그거보다 나한테 너무 와닿는 거예요. So again, my youngs like they're in their 40s now, right? So they're still never gonna forget what that young did for them, like back when they were here and they had nobody else. Because your parents can't stick up for you. 그리고 특히 IMF 세대 때 여기 왔는데 집에 돈도 없는데 그 돈 보셔야 되는데 우리가 말썽을 피우면은 그럼 어떻게 오실 거예요? The reason I look up to him so much is this: as an Asian person, as a Korean person. There's so many times I think, I wish I slapped or punched some people in the face when I was younger. Because my dad never let me do that. 왜냐면 우린 여기 이민이 와 있고, our legal status is such and such, so we don't want to get deported.
Right.
So there was a time in middle school, there was racial conflicts, and I got into a fight. And this kid swung at me and I blocked it. I blocked his punch 3 times. And he was literally 320 pounds. He threw me and then the teacher came. After he threw me, I got mad enough to punch him. But in my head, I was like, okay, at least I listened to my dad's advice. I'm not going to get into trouble. I'm going to be able to stay in this country nicely. We both got suspended the same. In the grand scheme of things, does that matter how much I got suspended in 7th grade? No, of course not. Does that still linger with me? I wish I punched that kid at least once if I was going to be punished regardless.
Right.
Yeah. Because as an Asian man in the United States, as a Korean man in the United States, how often do you get to see people standing up for you during COVID when the 할머니es were getting attacked in the subways, or even me when I was going for a walk and then with my family, and then these 2 old white grandpas looked at us during quarantine and they were like, that's why we have COVID.
Oh my gosh.
I wanted to scream at them. I wanted to yell at them. I wanted to fight them, but I couldn't. Right? Because I don't want to instigate violence in front of my parents and all of the years of repression that's on me.
Yeah.
I can't confront them at that moment. Not with my parents there. If it was just me and my brother, I've done that before. I was speaking Korean in the street. These people like, yo, speak that chink shit like elsewhere. So I just ran up on them like cursing at them in Korean at the full extent of my voice. And with my parents, when I actually should have acted to defend, I couldn't. You know what I did? I yelled at my mom to let's go. Because she didn't realize we were getting yelled at by racist people. She wanted a picture in front of their house. 근데 그 순간을 견딜 수 없어가지고 I yelled at my mom, which I still feel terrible about. 그렇게 살아왔거든요. 그러니까 the ideal of the Asian guy, of the Korean guy specifically in New Jersey, going around defending Korean boys with his own two fists and the 간지 포스. 우리가 가지지 못했던 거를 되게 충족시켜주기 때문에 that's like for me kind of like the core of the 1.5 generation. But emotionally, like, okay, when have we even yelled? When have we screamed in this land, when in this society? We haven't. So I just live with the memory of I kill you, nobody know. And that makes me feel better. There's so many stories like that of people who had to go through those experiences to survive, where we're not getting the protective structure that comes with traditional Korean societies, what we would have had if we grew up in Korea, or what we would have had if we had enough money to live in certain neighborhoods with certain Korean systems and communities and etc. Things like that. Right? That's why a lot of people gather, right, at Pocha, right, and during the day people could gather at church because they're always looking for those spaces. But I almost feel that I'm quite religious actually. I go to church. I try to go every Sunday, but I almost feel like as harmful as alcohol can be, that places like Pocha's can be something even more valuable to just a person, just a Korean person, especially they got here, they're having a tough time, right, and they don't have any place where they can like connect with people, talk about their feelings or their anger.
Yeah.
Because if you're a Korean man, you only talk about your feelings at church or when you're drunk. And there are certain things you can't say because of fear of judgment.
Sure.
Right? Because like if I confess my failings or stuff in church, I'm going to be talking about things like I'm not praying enough, right? Or I've been too lazy. But I'm not going to be talking about like anything like, for example, sexual. Right? I'm not going to open up about things like that at church, right? So for a lot of people then, especially men, your only excuse to talk about, discuss any feeling besides anger, because anger's fine, because that comes with the violence thing, that's fine, right?
Interesting.
At Pocha is with soju. When white people break up, what do? I don't know what they do. I don't know. Do you know what they do? What do white people do? If a Korean dude breaks up, there's only one answer.
Which is?
한잔 해야지. 한잔 해야지. That is the answer. 여자친구랑 헤어졌어? 한잔 해야지. And then you go, you drink, right? And after you get your drinks in, then you can talk about it. Right? In either direction. 내가 진짜 왜 그랬지? 병신이었어. 좀 더 잘해줬어야지. 이럴 수도 있고. Right? Or is that, 그런 애는 그냥 버려. 됐어. 이럴 수, like, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter the direction. Right? But you have to drink to talk about it. For all of you non-alcoholic Korean Americans out there, again, congratulations. I don't know how you're faring or dealing. Actually, let me know how you guys deal with that, because I want to know the healthy alternative. 왜냐면 it got to the point that 한 잔에 was a meme. And then something good happens, the same thing. I think that's because like we said, we don't have an outlet for like the violence. So we just watch the violence, we watch the webtoons, right? And we talk about that one legendary hyung from 30 years ago every time. And we also don't have an outlet for our emotions due to soju.
I thought it was interesting that you used the word repression. Guys, 남자들은 여자 1.5세보다 좀 더 그런 걸 더 많이 experience 하는 것 같아요. It's more in your face that you have to deal with these things. And then to have someone like your brother, your bro, coming to support you or protect you, It's a big deal. Sounds like.
그러니까 사람들이 감동하는 거죠, 한국 사람들은. 그러니까 아 형님, 아 형, you came back for me, like you know.
감동해서 forever 형님.
그런 거 한번 감동하면은 평생 가야죠.
I
그
see.
의리.
되게 어허.
캔의 노래가 있거든요. 그 내 생에 봄날은 간다 그거예요. 근데 그 가사가 비겁하다, 욕하지 마, 뭐 이렇게 가는데 it's like about like 이 두 주먹으로 살아온 사나이의 그 뜨겁게 가슴을 울리는 그 노래 그런 거거든요. 내가 노래방에서 그거 하면은 these kids are like 22, 23 걔들도 제일 좋아해 남자애들은. 남자애들 다 같이 불러요. like 떼창.
남자들은 또 싸워서 이겨야 되는 그런 게 있으니까.
아 서열 정리 한번 들어가야겠다. 서열은 hierarchy, I get that. 정리 서열 정리가 영어로 뭐냐고. What does that even mean? 서열 정리를 왜 하는데? 그거를 what does it mean to like clean it, organize it, right? 근데 그게
I'm
필요해요.
gonna put you in your place.
야 그거를 매겨줘야 돼. 그러니까 나는 여기고 너는 여기 이거를 해줘야 돼. 그래야지 좀 더 it feels right, it feels safe, it feels stable.
Do you think the Koreans do stick together? The Korean brothers,
Ooh, do Koreans stick together?
especially the brothers, the men.
That's tough. 그러니까 한국 애들도 있어요. 제가 고등학교 때도 애들이 these are terminology I don't know if people use anymore. The Twinkies and the FOBs, right? So the Twinkies are like more whitewashed or whatever you want to call it. The FOBs are more like fresh off the boat, right? 서로 별로 안 좋아했어요.
그럼
서로 안 좋아하잖아. 그래서
지금도 마찬가지고.
마찬가지인데 근데 옛날에는 그러니까 그 한국 사람이 좀 더 없을 때 그러니까 이게 낭만의 시대죠. 90년대, 2000년대. 그러면은 한국에서 왔다 하면 적어도 FOB 애들은 스틱트게더 하는 거죠. 그러니까 when there's a greater enemy, you band. When there's a greater enemy, you band. So and even if it's a Twinkie kid, right? If he's getting picked on by white kids, then you would band. You would band. I don't feel like they would feel the need to. Really.
아니 근데 재원 씨가 그때는 우리가 이랬는데 지금은 되게 옛날 사람 같은데.
옛날 사람 맞죠? 옛날 사람
33살이 옛날 사람이면.
시대가 빨리빨리 변하니까. 그러니까 not maybe in terms of years, but things shift, things change.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, moving faster
Right? Because like
than ever.
this is the thing. The more you have of something, the less you value it. Right? Simple. So as there are more and more Koreans become more common. It doesn't become as precious to hang on to the Korean connections you meet. And it's kind of bittersweet. I definitely don't feel that we bond as much. 그때는 제가 말씀드렸듯이 IMF 세대에 오신 분들이 많잖아요. 그래서 아무것도 없어. 그러니까 우리끼리 서로 손을 잡고 지켜야 되는 거 있고 서로를 지켜주고 그런 게 있잖아요. There's something very precious in that. 근데 지금은 안 한다는 게 you could be cynical about it. 그냥 안 한다, right? But maybe if I think about it like positively, that means we're in a better place. 잘 생각해보면 다 서로 자리를 잘 잡았으니까 maybe that means that we're all doing okay integrating, I hate that word, in American society. 미국에서 다 알아서 잘 자리 찾고 잘 살아가고 있으니까.
근데
그렇게 생각하려고요. 네.
근데 그 얘기하니까 my family came to the States in 1980. All I know is from 1980s, right? To me, 아까 재원 씨가 얘기한 것처럼 이제 1.5세 없어진 것 같다고
네.
그렇게 얘기했잖아요. 근데 나도 똑같이 느꼈어요. 그렇지만 I'm realizing there's still more. When I went to speak at Korean American 유학생 conference,
okay.
Christian conference, as a speaker for the youth conference. 그런데 나는 너무 it was culture shock for me. In my world, nobody's new from Korea. Everybody's been here for 30, 40, 50
For
years.
decades, yeah.
Right. 근데 거기 갔는데 한국 middle school and high school kids 한국말 너무나 잘하고 다 they're so Korean. I was shocked because 나는 그런 애들 본 지가 너무 오래된 거예요. And then it kind of after a while it kind of reminded me of myself back in the 80s where I was the FOB, right? There are still people coming freshly from these countries and going through those first immigrant family experiences. 근데 내가 interesting한 거는 you're a 1.5 generation, very, very classic case of 1.5 generation. 근데 미국에서 자란 what you call Twinkie or banana and the kids who are 1.5 generation or newly from Korea, they don't mingle together at all. Right? You've seen it. What do you think that is?
Within Colombia, there is KISAC, Korean International Students, and there's KSA, Korean Students Association.
Right.
There's one I'm in, which is KIGS, which is colleges have KSA is the Korean kids, and there's a KASA, Korean American Students Association. Even the associations themselves are separate, right? 근데 솔직히 트윈키들이랑 팝들은 남자애들은 친해질 수가 없어. 트윈키랑 팝 남자애들은 싸울 수밖에 없어.
왜요?
왜냐면은 내가 보기에는 트윈키 애들은 겁나 싸가지가 없거든.
어떤 면에서?
이 새끼가 나이가 몇 살인데 내 이름 부르고 지랄이야.
오케이.
형이라고 해야지. There's too much of dissonance on the respect factor between Korean Americans second gen, 1 or 1.5 gen. Right?
For sure.
Because you want to be treated a certain way. And honestly, they're both disrespectful towards each other according to their own standards. Because from my perspective, it's like, you're younger than me, why are you talking to me like this, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But from the other perspective, from a more Americanized perspective, it's, why are you telling me what to do? Who are you? Like, there is no king here. Like, what are you talking about?
There's
like,
no hierarchy.
I don't care if you're older than me. You're not my 형. I don't have a brother. You know, it's like 그런 그게 있기 때문에 특히 남자애들은 그러면 한 줄에서 굽히고 들어가야 되는데 it's not really something that happens too often. So they can't be a Twinkie and a FOB. They now have to merge into like a 1.75. 형이라는 단어는 쓰지는 않더라도 아니면은 영어로는 하는데 이름만 안 부르고 형이라고 해. 여기서 그러면은 형이라고 얘들한테 뭐 네가 막내니까 이런 거 시키면 안 돼. 그냥 형 소리만 듣는 걸로 만족을 해야 된단 말이에요. 거기서 끝. 컴프로마이즈. 여자들은 저도 모르고요.
여자들도 친해질 수가 없어요.
여자들은 제가 뭐 연애를 했을 때는 좀 더 들었었는데 그
뭐라고 들었어요?
The Twinkies and the FOBs, right? The uncrossable border between Korean men and Korean American men, right? This is the female divide in the EM and the KM, a Korean church. You know, I'm a little too scared to go to KM. I'm always intimidated when I go there. 근데 솔직히 말하면은 한국 교회에서 KM 다니시는 분들이 되게 전투적으로 옷을 입고 오는 게 전투적 as in like 다른 사람들한테 지면 안 된다는 생각으로 착장. 교회 결혼식 가면은요, 제가 한 2년 전인가 교회 결혼식 같은데 그 당시 연애를 하던 친구랑 내기를 했어요. How many Chanel classic bags are we gonna count today? 그러니까 that's just 표면적. That's
그렇지,
one of
그렇지.
the things,
Right.
It's one of the things because, like you said, there's different dynamics in which in Korea, right? The 남자들의 세계랑 여자들의 세계가 서로 the way they fight with people or they kind of measure the 서열 정리. 남자들은 그래도 술 먹잖아. 그리고 형이 한번 형답게 해줘요. 그러면은 트윈키든 팝이든 상관이 없게 될 수가 있어. You could even be the fob guy. It's like, 이제 I'm not gonna call you John. 이제 형으로 부를게요. 이제 yeah, whatever. One incident. 감동 한 번 먹이면 돼. 한 번.
너무 재밌어. 그렇구나. 여자들은 조금 더 또 미묘하고 안 보이는 그런 것들이 있어요.
I don't know how that. If I did know that, I probably would be married by this point. Because I'm a pretty angry person because of reasons that we've been kind of discussing. I've been cynical. 약간 삐딱하는데 has K-pop done anything for Korean Americans? Yeah, it's good for Korea. And my answer to that was no. Like, it's not good for Korean Americans. It doesn't help us at all.
You don't think so?
Right? That's what I thought. It didn't help me when I was experiencing whatever types of racism, wherever I go, whether it's a subway, the food cart, or... But I think K-pop has been good for Korean Americans in that it's keeping our Koreanness alive.
Yeah.
Because it's making it cool to be Korean for the kids. There is a much bigger movement or tendency to learn Korean, partake in Korean culture, go to Korean barbecue, go to 노래방, go to like they're cool and we like these things. And this is such a cliche story. When like 10 years ago, I wouldn't even write about it. You bring your Asian whatever kimbap to school lunch. The kids make fun of you, and you go home and you're like, "Mom, make me a peanut butter jelly sandwich," something like that, right? But now. LeBron James has a PB on his jersey.
Oh, does he? Oh.
LeBron James has PB on his jersey, and that's thanks to K-pop. That's thanks to Bongjuno. That's thanks to Psy.
Almost every one of my guests have spoken about the lunchbox.
Right?
Yeah.
Everyone went through that.
Yeah, everybody. I learned a lot about the Korean American 1.5 generation men, culturally and emotionally and socially. I was not aware.
It's a very peculiar space that I'm in it, but I don't like think about it. I didn't really think about it like that until the podcast came up. So I've been like the past month, I've been talking to my youngs and things like that.
Right, of course, because you're in it, you live it. You say you wanted to be a writer since you're 16. What kind of writer do you want to be?
That's actually such a good question because it was connected to what we were just talking about as well. Skipping the whole when I was a kid and all of that, right now, I want to be a writer because as an American, speaking American, what I want to say to America is that I'm not translating for you anymore. I will speak how I speak. I will write how I speak. If I'm feeling generous, I will provide a glossary or an index. If you leave in the comments crying, English please, I will not do that for you. I will not clean up how I talk. I will not standardize anything. And I want to do that because I'm also Korean. I'm Korean, American, Korean-American. I'm all of those things. Too long we've been misusing the Korean as an adjective, but putting in front of things as if they're like inferior substitutes, pale, shadows of white people things. Only recently have we decided, oh, this is just kimbap, this is just bibimbap. So
Right.
people know kimbap, people know bibimbap, but do they know other things? And other cultures brought food in here. Sushi is just sushi, tacos are tacos. They didn't bring in tacos like, this is actually a Mexican sandwich. No, they didn't say that, it's a taco. Taco's a taco. Right? Korean's a Korean. And I am me, right? I'm Jae. I'm Jaewon. I'm Juwon. I'm Jaewon. I don't like people using that name, because if you don't know me, don't use my name. But that's who I am. And I thought for a long time about how I should write, and it's facing my insecurities of how much do I have to translate for people? I'm a Korean American, my experience is so Korean. How can I make sure it's relatable to, in my head, white people, because I wanted to make money selling things to white people, because they're the biggest demographic, to be honest. But I don't care anymore. I can make money other ways. I'm a talented individual. I don't need to make money from writing. That's why I can write. So I'm going to write how I want, and I'm going to write it for me. My professor, Vanessa Bertier, shout out to Vanessa, love you. She said, when you write, envision who's literally in the room with you when you write. Not a subset of people, individuals. Is your mom reading it? Is your brother reading it? Is it your girlfriend? Is it an individual you wish would read your writing? So right now, I'm writing literally for me, and I'm writing for the people who grew up with I kill you, nobody know, that being something they hung on to. That's who I'm writing for. And that's why I write, because I want to tell our story with no translation. Sometimes there are competitions that I enter, and they say, everything has to be in English. If you include anything that is non-English, you must translate it. And it burns me to have to do that. There are even competitions for Korean things, for Asian American contests, right? For Korean identities. And I love the organization for existing. But when I write in Korean, when I speak in Korean, even there, I have to translate it so people don't feel excluded. But you're excluding me. And I'm trying to tell my story. So what are we doing here?
Yeah, I did notice that in your writing that you just use Korean words in Korean and there's no translation.
Google is free. GPT is free. Gemini is free. Copilot is free. There's so many AIs.
How
better.
bold you are.
So I'm not tied into, am I going to sell a lot of books? Am I going to be popular? I'd be a little hole-in-the-wall, hidden gem type of dude. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. My experience, very niche, limited one of growing like in Jersey. There are a lot of Korean American writers out there actually super talented. And their stories speak to me powerfully, just as James Baldwin's stories speak to me powerfully, even though he is from a black experience, right? But they're not my story. They're not the story of my homes.
Are you writing more essays or non-fictions? What types of...
Non-fiction, probably a collection of essays under the, again, I haven't actually come up with a working title or anything, under the framework of I speak American, not Asian, or I'm not translating for you. or Tales from Church and Pocha. Like, those are the frameworks.
Last question. How do you stay in that place of not writing for the mass audience? I'm okay with being the unknown guy, that I write for myself.
That for me, and there are very few things about me in which I actually practice humility, but because I'm also a pretty self-confident, honestly arrogant individual. But that's humility, because I'm not confident I can write for a mass audience, even if I wanted to. Right? What are the chances I would succeed in that? Number one, can I even do that? And number two, do I even want to do it? I was at Stony Brook, and it's a very good school academically. But while I was there, I was paying money I didn't have for a degree that I didn't want, for a future that I didn't want to pursue. So I dropped out. I could only do difficult things if I want to do them. Things aren't that hard. I can do things if I'm just getting paid, if they're not that hard. Like a translation gig, interpretation gig. I've been speaking English. 한국말도 실제로 꽤 잘해요. 통역도 할 수 있고, 번역도 할 수 있고, 할 수 있어요. But writing is so hard for me that sometimes I have to cut out sentences that are like, wow, I am so talented. I came up with that masterpiece sentence, but I have to cut it out because it doesn't work with the rest.
Right.
And I sit there, I'm like, I'm good enough to come up with this, but not good enough to put it in. Like, what am I even doing here? So I can't go through all that while writing for people I don't care about. And two, it would crush me. The question of, is anybody going to read my writing if it's for a mass audience? Don't worry about the label, Korean, American, like 1.5. Like, you are everything that you are. And the language I speak, like I said, is American. Whoever's watching this probably also Korean American or just American wherever you are, right? Whatever you speak is whatever you speak. So don't translate for people. Thank you for the people who have been here in Jersey, growing up as a Korean, all my hungs, for being there. So I had some type of like a bedrock to look to. When I was younger, honestly, I didn't, and things were a lot more difficult. So thank you for that. Thank you for having me and listening to me ramble.
Thanks to your hyungs.
Yeah.